When did you start playing guitar?
I was about between 11 and 13 years old.
All right. When did you start?
My cousin actually taught me 3 chords from a Beach Boys song called Sloop John B.
Ah, okay.
3 chords, the famous G, C, and D chords.
When did you decide to make it a career?
I actually got into a band when I was about 13 with a couple of friends from school, and we played, and we got an offer to play for free at the St. Demetrius Greek Church in Jamaica, New York. And we were accepted really, really well, and I said, this feels pretty damn good.
Okay. Were there any other bands that you were in before joining Riot?
Yes, I was in quite a few bands. I was in a band called Prism, which was my first high school band. We were pretty happening around the neighborhood. I was also in a band called Smoke after that, which was right after that. And then I was in a band called Harlequin, which was with the guitar player from a band called the Good Rats, who you might have heard of. They're kind of a Long Island band, but he was one of the best guitar players around in our neighborhood. Very respected, kind of a crazy dude, but very respected.
Okay. How did you get to join Riot?
That's an interesting story. I was jamming with a lot of people during that period. I was about 20, I think I was about 21, 22 years old, and I was playing with a lot of different people. So a friend of mine had told me about this referral service in New York City on 57th Street, right off, I believe it was 7th Avenue. And what you would do is you would pay $25 a quarter of a year, and you would get to place this is how archaic this was, according to today's standards. It was a piece of paper with some, your name and address, your influences, a place to attach a photo, and a telephone number. And that was it. And you would go into a file that had about 10,000 guitar players in this file cabinet in this room that was no bigger than about a 12 by 12 room. And there were drummers and singers too, but you think about how many guitar players they were at the time. There were thousands of them. So what happened was that I just happened to have the same influences as Mark and the rest of the band in Riot. I liked Rick Derringer and Ronnie Montrose and Edgar Winter and Deep Purple and so forth and so on, and our influences coincided to the T. So they actually gave me a call. They went to this referral service, and they actually picked my name because of the influences out of this, which was crazy, this file cabinet full of 10,000 pieces of paper. So figure that out, going through all this paper. And they called me. Actually, Guy Speranza called me and said, would you like to come down and audition? I said, yeah, sure, I would love to. And I came down, and as I was going down there, it was in a basement, in Mark Vialli's basement. I actually went down into his basement. As I'm going down the stairs, I see a friend of mine coming up, and he says, and he goes to me, what the heck are you doing here? I said, I'm here to audition for the band. I said, what'd you think? I asked him. He goes, they're not that good. So I said, oh, really? I said, so I went down, and I kind of had the opposite, feeling about them. I thought they were extremely good. And we had a gelling right away. And I think I must have been there for about a half hour. We jammed for a while, and it sounded great. And the next day, Mark actually called me and said, do you want to be in the band? And I said, absolutely. And that's how that started.
Wow. Who was in the band when you joined? Can you remember?
Yeah, of course. Are you kidding? Well, Guy Speranza, of course, who was the actual sound of Riot. I mean, there's no denying that he had an extremely unique voice.
Yes.
But also, he was able to sing. You know, a lot of folks didn't know that. You know, Guy could actually sing a lot of different songs. He was very, very good singing Zeppelin and Bad Company and Queen, and very versatile singer, and did a fine job. You know, it wasn't exactly like the sound of the voice, but it was so close that he got away with it, and it really sounded good. But he was very talented that way. And I forgot the question.
Who else? Who was in the band when you joined?
Oh, that's right. Who was in the band? Okay. So you had Jimmy Iommi, who was the bass player,
right?
Who actually wound up being married to Guy's. Jimmy had a sister who was married to Guy, and then you had Peter Batelli, who was the drummer, Mark Reale, of course, and myself.
Okay, and you weren't because I have a whole lineup sheet here, and you were. The lineup before that was they had a bassist named Phil Fiat and
Phil Fight. Phil Fight was in the band. He was actually replaced. He was the bass player, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he was replaced by Jimmy Iommi.
Right.
For I guess reasons. Mark was a little bit of. I think he was a little tough to work with. But he was out, and there was a guy named Stephen Costello who I replaced. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I replaced the keyboard player in the band.
And he co-wrote Warrior, right?
Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Here.
Yeah, and then you also, I think, was there anybody else? No, that was it. Those were the two people that I knew of that were out of the band when I got in. And Jimmy Iommi and I were the newest members of the band. This was in 1975, in May of 1975.
So you joined. That's when you joined, or what?
Yes, that's when I joined the band in May of 1975. I was actually going to Queensborough Community College in New York at the time.
All right, because this is just proof that there isn't enough information here, because like other sites will give different years or whatnot.
That's because it wasn't important at the time what Riot was. When they started becoming, I guess, a force in Europe, and the band members started changing, I think more people were paying more attention, and it wasn't that important, but I guess these little tidbits of information are important to keep the record straight, I guess.
Okay, have any favorite memories of touring with Riot, or
I got plenty of them. Some of them I can't even tell you about, but I will tell you. I'll tell you some of the highlights. In 1977, we got asked to play for a benefit for hemophilia, which was a great concert down in Florida in Biscayne Bay. And we were asked to play down there because we had some of our material got on the radio station down there, and they asked us if we wanted to play, along with the Outlaws, Neil Young, who else was there? Mark Fauna from Grand Funk Railroad. The Outlaws actually recorded their live album there.
Would Spirit have happened to be there?
Well, I don't remember Spirit being there.
Because I read a story about something about Randy California and Neil Young getting into a little bit of a fight.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but it was Neil Young's birthday that night, and I kind of had every band. I got a little bit of a signature on this bag that was for some of the how would you say, the little giveaways that they were giving away for people who were donating money, and I donated a couple of dollars, and they gave me a bag with all the members that had played at the gig, and I didn't see Spirit there.
All right, that may have been another.
Yeah, it might have been another situation. But that was a very, very big gig for us, because what happened was we got on that night, that Saturday night, and we were kind of really excited because that was our first big. We were playing some venues, but nothing this big. There happened to be somewhere about, well, it was documented as somewhere about 300,000 people there. And that was one of the biggest gigs we've ever played. We were like standing behind the speakers, and we looked, you know, out into the audience, and we saw the sea of people. It was just incredible, and we were excited, get scared shitless, to be honest with you. So when we got out there after the first chord, we just kicked butt, and they liked us so much that they asked us to play the next day, which was kind of cool. And you know, we got to hang out with a lot of the great artists, and that was a lot of fun. And we got interviewed by a lot of different magazines and radio stations and so forth and so on and so on. And that was one of the highlights. Another highlight was that up in Binghamton, New York, Riot had a hit single out there on this radio station in Binghamton. I don't remember. I can't recall, but I can find out for you because I have all the documents stuff someplace in a folder. Where they liked us so much, they asked us to come and tour with Journey, which is a big highlight for me personally, but also for the band. And we opened up for them, and it was a great night. It was at an outside stadium called Triple City Stadium. It held about 60,000 people, but there wasn't. I think it was maybe about 20,000 there. And we played very, very well. And after the gig, Steve Perry, of course, was just indoctrinated into the band. Ainsley Dunbar was the drummer, who has played with everybody, with Jeff Beck and
Frank
a lot
Zappa.
of whatever. And also Neil Schon, who, after we played, we were actually walking down the stairs because the stage was huge and it was very high up, so we had to go down these stairs. As we were going down the stairs, Journey was coming up, and Neil Schon stopped me personally and told me what a great guitar player he thought I was. And here I am, I'm looking at this guy. I'm 22, 23 years old, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm saying to myself, boy, this guy thinks I'm good, and here I am, I'm worshiping this guy. And I asked him, I said, would you mind very much if I sat up on stage with you and watched you play? So I was able to sit about 3 feet away from him and watch him play the whole concert. That was a great highlight for me. And then after the gig, he invited me back to the hotel, and we spent some time in the bar where he told me stories about the band, which I can't actually tell you about. But, you know, we were having some trouble back in those days with Riot, with you know, all the stuff you go through personally when you're in a band. You know, it's like a marriage, and you're going to go through some good times, some bad times, some arguments, you know, making up and so forth and so on. And we were going through some stuff, and Neil Schon, being in the business for, God, since he was 15 years old with Santana, really shed some light for me and gave me some really great advice. He actually gave me his card with his home phone number, no cell phones back then, no fax machines back then, and gave me his number with his card. His card said Nightmare Music on it, and if you look, that was his publishing company. He gave me his card with his name on it and his number, and he said to me, if you ever need anything, he goes, call me. He goes, I'll help you. And I never took him up on it.
Wow.
Which was kind of a crazy thing for me, which I'll never forget. And my son, who was also a fantastic drummer, said to me, he goes, he's 19 years old, and he's going to be 20 this month. He said to me, Dad, he goes, why didn't you call? I said, I don't know. Because everything was going on in my life. I was getting into new bands. I thought I could do it by myself. And that was another highlight. So, other highlights. We played Max's Kansas City. which was a great venue where a lot of stars came out of. You know, Blondie, the Tough Hearts, the New York Dolls, the Ramones. We happened to play there. We played a place called Club 82, Great Gildersleeves, which was another big place for us where a lot of people will come down and see us. I mean, we played a little place called, let's see if I can remember the name. It was right next door to Electric Ladyland Studios where Jimi Hendrix did his album. It was called, oh my God, I can't think of the name at the moment. It'll come to me though. And it was in a basement. And what happened was, we were sitting down there, and who's standing down there? But you had Mick Jagger there, and Mick Jagger, and I believe I can't remember if it was. I think it was the guitar player. His name escapes me right now. Who's
for the Rolling Stones?
Rolling Stones.
Ronnie Wood.
No, it was the other.
Keith Richards.
Keith Richards. They were down there. Lenny Kaye was also down there from another band that was at the time I can't remember the name. I'm blanking out, but Patti Smith. Patti Smith, yeah, not Patti Smith. It's Patti Smith band. She was down there with Lenny Kaye, and we used to get a lot of rockers coming down and hearing us play, and they really enjoyed us. Mark and I were known as the killer guitar duo, which we became, I think, as the time went on. A lot of people like our dueling guitars. We would actually do a lot of double leads, but in rock and roll style, where like the Allman Brothers would do kind of like that. I shouldn't say country, kind of more the southern rock, or we were more of that heavy rock style, a la Blackmore and
Thin Lizzy.
I'm sorry.
Like Thin Lizzy. Like the
exactly.
Twin lead guitars.
Yeah, twin lead guitars, and a radio station in. Actually, we got interviewed by some radio stations in Japan, out of Green Street Studios, which where we recorded the Rock City album, which was owned by the producers. They had the our Japanese affiliates there call in, and we were answering all these questions about, whatever they had in mind anyway. But they actually gave us some great reviews on the dueling guitars and how well we played in Guy Speranza's voice. I happen to have copies of that. If you want, I can actually fax them to you, or see if I can not fax them over. I can scan them and send them over to you. Okay. I mean, they said some wonderful things about the band.
Cool.
And the album back then, has some there's some derogatory things about the recording of the album. But back then we were a young band, and we did the best we could, and we didn't have any major producer, or I shouldn't say producer, engineering the band. So we got the sounds we thought were good in the studio, and whatever came out at the time was good enough for us. We thought it was great. And a lot of other people did. It was a little weak on the production side.
Yeah, I was listening to the, I've owned Rock City for a couple of years now. I was listening to the first 3 Riot albums, and it's like those first 2 albums, the production could have been a little bit better. But
yeah, it could have been a lot better. Yeah. Well, I come from a recording background, because I took a recording course in the city when I was 21, before I got into Riot. So I happen to know a little bit, but you can't tell. I couldn't go around telling the engineer what to do. So I left them to their own devices. But it was a little weak.
And
live, we were great.
And that would answer one of my questions here about the critical response to Riot. To Rock City, rather.
Yeah. We got some pretty good reviews from the New Yorker magazine in their music section, which I have documented, and a lot of the Good Times magazines out here in Long Island really liked us. Brooklyn really loved us because we were the home based band. But for an album that was done so long ago, and for a bunch of guys that were just starting out in the business, it was a pretty decent album for what it was. Yeah, it got better as it went along, and everything gets better as you go along. You get better people, you get better equipment, better studios, better heads. But, you know, that comes with time. It's like a good wine.
Okay, and you mentioned before in the message to me about songwriting credits. And
Yeah.
the only song that I mean, I got Rock City from the Amazon MP3 store, so I had to look this up. And the only song that I see that you got credit for was Gypsy Queen off.
That's correct.
Off Rock City.
Yeah, there was a big thing going on. That's one of the things that was always a problem with Riot. I don't know if they omitted it, if it was Mark's idea or I know it wasn't the rest of the band because I talked to them.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark was very close with the producers, and the producers were not the most reputable type of people. As in the music business at that time, there was not very many reputable people unless you were, like, you know, up there in status. You know, these guys were starting out too. They had some critical acclaim from writing some jingles and stuff like that. And but I wrote quite a few of the tunes on there, and I didn't find out till recently when Mark was sick. A couple of guys that grew up in the neighborhood went to go see Mark, and he actually let the cat out of the bag, and he said, "Yeah," he goes, "Lou must hate me because, you know, he did help me write half of that album, Rock City." I was responsible for Gypsy Queen. I helped write Rock City.
Mm-hmm.
So did Phil Fight, and I don't. He got credit for it either.
Got credit, yeah.
He did get credit. Okay. Also, not Angel. There was another song on there. Oh Jesus! It was Gypsy Queen. You have the album in front of you.
I can remember.
Never mind. I got it right here. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to look. I got it right here.
All right.
Let me see if I could see. Of course, I can't see it because it's so small. But I think I got it right here. I'll tell you in a second. You got about 4 hours? I got it right here. Okay. Now I can talk a little better. Get my glasses on. Okay. Tokyo Rose, I helped write a couple of things in there.
Mm-hmm.
Overdrive, I had a lot to do with Overdrive. And Rock City, those were the main ones. Rock City, Overdrive, Tokyo Rose, and also Heart of Fire.
Okay.
All right, those I had, and if you on some of the albums, depending on what label you go to, if it was Areola Records in Germany or EMI in Germany, I'm not exactly sure. You'll see that they gave me writing credit on the inside of the album on the label, but not on the outside. And I heard from the guys who went to go see Mark when he was really, really sick last year, a little more than a year ago, that it was the producer's idea not to give me credit. I also wrote I started the second album, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
What was that?
I started Narita.
You started...
The album Narita, their second album.
You didn't play on that, did you?
Yes, I did.
You did?
But I don't know if they used any of it. I did play 49er, which I actually wrote the main riff.
Okay.
And I also helped write Kick Down the Walls.
All right.
Those are the two songs, because we were doing those songs before the second album.
Yeah, the guy that gets credited was your replacement, which was Rick.
He got credit for which song? 49er?
No, I think he gets credit for playing on the Narita album.
Oh, yeah, he does. I didn't get credit for playing on the Narita album, yeah. I started it, though. I started the album, and then by that time, I was let go from the band. Mm-hmm. Or fired, whatever word you want to use. Doesn't matter to me.
And this is one of my other questions. You were fired from the band?
I was let go. They never actually said you're fired, but I was let go.
All right. How successful do you think Riot were during your time in the group?
I think they were, when I was in the band in 1977 to 78, I think we started to get very, very popular, because remember, I joined the band in 75. 76, we were playing all the dives, paying our dues, writing the album, and preparing for the album. The album was done in 76, but it was released in 77. And between 77 and 78, I think we had a lot of popularity. I think the band did very, very well. We were getting all kinds of noise from all the record companies. Unfortunately, disco was out at that time, and you have to remember what a force that was.
Mm-hmm.
But we were still getting a lot of bookings. We were playing with a lot of main acts. We played with Southside Johnny. We played with Rick Derringer. We played with who else did we play with? Oh my God! You know what? I have to go to my website to find out who I played with. By the way, my website is www.lakouvaris.com. If you want to throw that in, if you want to give me a little poke.
Okay.
Let me just take one look here. I'll tell you in a second. That's what happens when you get old, Aaron. You got a lot to look forward to. Okay, here we go. Let's see. We played with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Oh, wow.
Pat Travers, Journey, Joe Walsh, and those were the biggies for me while I was with them.
Neat.
But I also went to go on to audition for Ozzy Osbourne and Kiss back in 81 and 82.
And they ended up. You auditioned for Kiss?
I went to audition for Kiss and for Ozzy Osbourne in 1982.
After Randy had passed, right?
Yeah, after Randy had passed, yeah.
And Kiss ended up taking Vinnie Vincent, I think.
Vinnie Vincent, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ozzy Osbourne. Two guys before me, it was Zakk Wylde and Jimmy Bell, who was from the House of Lords.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to my website, you can read the whole story on that.
All right.
But so those are the main people. But I think we had some pretty good acclaim back then. The band was just starting to really start, making some headway, and there was a friend that they had there, Rick Ventura, who happened to be my roadie. He happened to be a friend, but he was hanging around all the time. He was a neighborhood guy. And I used to teach him all the songs and stuff like that. He used to watch me play all the time. And when they had let me go, he was a perfect replacement.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how great that sounds by them saying that a roadie replaced him. It wasn't really like that, but he wasn't an actual roadie. He was actually a friend. But anyway. That's the story with him. And fire away with another question.
I think you may have told me a little bit about this, but how did the recording of Rock City come about?
There was a recording already done of Warrior and Desperation.
All right.
And there was a guy who was, I think his name was Richie Alexander. He was actually, had signed Riot to a production deal or something like that. And there was some interest at that time from Anacrusis Music, which was Billy Arnell and Steve Loeb. They were actually the people who owned studio, Green Street Studios, and also the publishing company that Riot was later on signed to. And there was some interest. I think they were bought out, by Billy and Steve, and that's how the album came about. They basically had interest in those particular two songs.
Okay.
That's how the ball started rolling, and I was actually just got into the band as that was happening. They didn't have any management then. We get the management later, but they did have the producers who were interested, who later on I got a chance to meet, and then finally they signed us. They signed us in 1976 to Firesign Records, which was from the States. But by the time the end of the year rolled around, they had deals with Areola Records in Canada and Japan. I'm sorry, it was Victor Records in Japan, Areola in Canada, and I believe it was Areola in, I think, England and Germany, or possibly EMI in Germany. So those were the places that we had all affiliated record deals with, overseas record deals with. But Firesign Records here in the States.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm hearing things on the song Rock City, but is there anybody playing piano?
That's a really good question. I think there might be like a little piano in the background someplace. I'm not sure. I haven't listened to it in ages, so there might be.
All right.
There wasn't any when I was there, but it was very, very possible because Phil Feit did help write that song, and Costello was around at the time.
Oh.
So they might have kept some of that. Maybe later on, maybe they came into overdub or something like that. Maybe Stephen Costello came into overdub. But we had already done the song, and there was no piano on that. It was strictly guitars, and when we originally recorded it.
Well, now with the whole, the remastering of the album, that's out now on MP3s and CDs or whatever. The few times I've heard it, I'm thinking I'm hearing a piano.
Yeah, I've never heard it, but I'm gonna go listen.
I don't know. It may sound. Obviously vinyl is a better sound than CD.
Did you hear it? Have you heard it on vinyl?
I have not. I do have Fire Down Under on vinyl. I was able to find a copy when I visited New York with my uncle. Go over to Rolling Stone. I met the senior editor, David Frick.
Sure.
And we went to a few record stores, and they had Fire Down Under on vinyl.
Right. Well, I might have an extra one around. If I have an extra one around, I'll send it to you.
Oh, cool. Okay, and I don't know how you can answer this one. Now, the Riot album covers had this seal mascot. Would you happen to know what was with the mascot?
It was very, very silly. I don't think they had anything. Somebody came up with, somebody from the Riot crew, not the people in the band, but somebody from the producers or friends or somebody came up with that particular thing, and nothing that comes to my mind was really, nothing was really planned, so to speak. They just put kind of like a baby seal's head, because at the time with the furs, there was such controversy with furs. And if you look at the album cover, it's like, there's a baby seal's head on a human body with an axe, and behind it, there's this fire in the city blowing up, and all that signified was that the baby seals were getting back at the human race or some kind of race. But there was really nothing. They were grasping, or they were just being cute, I guess. But there was no real talk of it. Nobody knows where that came from, as far as any kind of a how would you say, there wasn't any kind of a I'm a loss for words here. A theme they were going for, you know? It was just there, you know?
So it wasn't anybody from the band, it wasn't the record label who came up with...
Yeah. I think it was one of the friends from the record label, or some artist, you know, who did it, and they bought the picture or something. You know, we were shocked when we saw it. I mean, we didn't know what to make of it.
Well, you didn't see the album. It was just released in...
Yeah, like they didn't say here's what the record's going to look like. We just basically saw it and we went, oh. Okay.
And they kept using...
Yeah, they kept on using it because I guess it was a smart thing to do. I mean, you know, if you look at it, it was, you know, the second album and then the third album. After that, I don't think there was anything else after the third album.
Restless Breed, it was like a guy with the half of a face.
Yeah.
And then they used it for Born in America, and I think they used it somewhat on the albums after Thunder Steel.
Yeah.
But, and I think they ended up, this is what I'm reading online, they ended up giving the mascot a name.
Yeah, Johnny.
Johnny, which is what Johnny's Back is about.
Yeah, Johnny's Back. I don't know if that, you know, like I said, there was no rhyme or reason to that mascot. It just happened to be put on there. You know, we did a video for Japan.
That's what I was just about to ask.
Oh, okay. There was a because the Japanese people loved Riot so much. We sold 100,000 records, which is gold in Japan at the time, and they liked us so much that we did a promo for them, and they took the theme from Godzilla. And they made it sound like, you know, here Riot is coming to town.
Yeah, I've seen it on YouTube. So.
Yeah. And that particular beginning is just to say, look out, you know, Riot's going to be coming to a Japanese place near you, you know? And that's how that started. And then, of course, you know, we recorded that particular promo. There was actually... 3 songs that we were supposed to do, but I think only 2 of them were the ones that were sent out. Angel and Overdrive. I tried to get a hold of Angel, but they took that off YouTube. That surfaced about 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, they got the whole 14-minute thing on YouTube now. Yeah,
I actually put it on there.
Oh.
That was me. What happened was the producer, Steve Loeb, who was hoarding this thing for the last 30 years, never put it out. And I was looking at it for years, and I have friends of mine who are great players who play in Japan, and they went to every record store in Japan. They couldn't find this thing. And this was a promo specifically for them, to describe the band and to, you know, cause excitement and so forth and so on. And it was never found. So on YouTube, about 3 years ago, I found it, and I was like completely in awe because I hadn't seen it since 1979, and it resurfaced. And what I did was I extracted it. At the time there wasn't like you have right now. You can just click on it and extract it. I had to get an extracting tool and try to get it off there. And I was able to get one of them off. But before I got a chance to take the second one, which was Angel, he had taken everything off.
Oh wow!
So I reposted it, and I guess there was some controversy was going on with Riot at the time, with Mark and I think Steve Loeb, and you know, because I think they were at odds at each other. They caused the rift a while back ago. So, but that promo was very well taken, very professionally done. It was done with the Rolling Stones production crew, film crew, because remember at the time there was no video. It was film, and it was done with their mobile unit, which I believe they paid quite a bit of money to do that. And it was done at a place called the Rock Palace in Brooklyn, which was the hometown, and the place was packed. I mean, it was mobbed. It was a great night, and you know, it was a very, very good video, I think, for the time. Very well done.
The funny thing is that at the very beginning of the video, the promotional video is called Riot Attacks the World, and you're not credited as being in the video. Like, they say Riot is, and they give the list of the band members.
Yes.
They put Rick instead of...
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's actually not him, as you can tell. And that's a political move. You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's easy to understand. But what happened was I had just gotten out of the band at that time, and because that promo was out for, I think it was out in late '77, and for '78, and when I was let go from the band, they decided to put Rick's face there instead of mine. So, well, it was my face, but Rick's name.
Yeah, I think they used the picture. I think they used your picture in it.
Yeah, they used my picture, but with Rick.
Yeah.
He kind of like maybe looked alike because of the long straight hair and so forth and so on. They didn't want to rock the boat, I guess, and start saying there were so many changes going on. So that's the story with that, but it was done very, very nicely. And that was pretty well done for that year.
Yeah, the other good video I saw on there is you're not in it, but it's a full-length concert of them in 1981 at my father's place. Yeah,
I wasn't in that band. The time Rick Ventura was in that band. I had left in '79, so I went on to a band called Sweet Talk, and we got signed by a guy named Richard Resnikoff, who was a studio musician, and Billboard was behind us, and a bunch of other stuff was. I was in that band for 2 years. But that's that video I'm not in, of course, obviously.
Okay. Do you have a favorite Riot song or album that was released after or before you left the band?
Yeah, I happen to like. I wasn't crazy about Thundersteel, but I liked the work that was done. It was a complete, 180 from what they were doing.
There are some,
but I did like Restless Breed.
Yeah.
I thought they had some good, Red Forrester's voice was pretty good. Again, totally away from the Speranza voice, which I considered what Riot really was. And then I also liked a few of the albums that Mike DeMeo was on. I think Army of One. I'm not exactly sure which ones he's on because there's
on about 6 of them.
Yeah, there's like 15 albums, and I always wondered, and then I heard some Westworld stuff, which I thought was pretty good.
I have yet to listen to that. I got a Nightbreaker last week in the mail.
Okay.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And Mike is on that one.
Yeah, Mike DeMeo is an incredible keyboard player, and he's an incredible singer. And I became friends with him in the last year, and we pal around a little bit.
Anybody from the Thundersteel lineup?
Yeah. I think DeMeo was on some Thundersteel. Was it DeMeo in the Thundersteel? No, he wasn't in the Thundersteel lineup.
Yeah, Tony Moore.
Yeah, Tony Moore. It was after that.
Is there anybody in the subsequent lineups that you keep in touch with, or?
Well, the only people I reached out to, again, you have to remember that when I got let go from the band, the last time I spoke to anybody, I actually made myself available to Jimmy and Guy when they were basically really fed up with the band, and we got together and we were talking. This was about 1982, I think, somewhere around the 81, 82, and they were telling me that they were very, very unhappy with the way the direction of the band was going, and they had a lot of difficulty with the producers, and they were ripping them off and all kinds of stuff. And that's the last time I really talked to them. So, but in the last year, I reached out to Peter Batelli, was the drummer, who I see quite often now. I went down to Florida and hung out with Jimmy Iommi and actually jammed with him with his band. I think he's in a band called Sinister, I'm not sure. And then I also spoke to Guy's wife, who enlightened me on a lot of things with the producers and stuff like that. Because Guy was actually pretty fed up at the time with them. He didn't want to tour anymore because of all he didn't want to be away from his family anymore. There wasn't a lot of money being made. The band was always getting ripped off, financially. And although that was never really discussed or never brought out, it was a very, very, very big part of why the band dissolved. As the Riot that's known, the original Riot that's known.
From Rock City to
Restless Breed. Well, just before Restless Breed.
America. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, you got Narita, then you had, what was the one after Narita?
Fire Down Under.
Yeah, those are the 3 albums. And then after that, I don't think Guy and Jimmy wanted to be in the band anymore.
Well, Jimmy wasn't on Fire Down Under.
He wasn't on Fire Down Under? I don't remember.
Kip Lemming.
Kip Lemming, okay. Those two guys were in a band called 212, which I used to tour with at Gildersleeves all the time, in the New York City circuit. They were in a band called 212, and they were like a combo team, and we used to play with them all the time. In Riot and without Riot, I played with them. They were pretty good backbone of the band.
All right, and there wasn't any. When you said that was the last time that you really talked to them after you had been let go from the band, you didn't,
right?
You didn't, and the next time you saw Peter and Jimmy, or saw anybody, was
they were way out of the band by then. I mean, that was last year.
So, what was like did you keep in contact with Guy before he passed?
Only that one time back in 1983. Because I wanted to find out why I was let go. They never really told me the reason. There was never really I mean, they say a lot of different things, but it was actually, I think they have down as I had different, my style of playing was not the same as Mark, and that's total bull, because Mark and I played very similar.
Mm-hmm.
The reasons that I got into the band. And if you listen to any of and some of the old stuff, any of the live stuff that I'm on, which is floating around someplace, you'll see that Mark and I really share a lot of the same sound and the same riffs and so forth and so on.
I think all the guys that Mark was, but there's been like, after you, there was a Rick and then Mike Flint. I think everybody that was with Mark, they played the same ways.
Yeah, we all had the similar styles.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the real reason was I wanted to go a little bit more commercial, like Judas Priest was doing, like the Scorpions were doing, like Deep Purple was doing, and getting more songs like Warrior out there, and something that had a little more of a pop sound to create a buzz as far as a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned that once briefly to, as a matter of fact, I was at a gig with, it was actually the Journey gig. I woke up the next morning in my hotel, and the next morning everybody was gone. And the only guy that was around was the photographer, who was best friends with Billy Arnell, who was one of the producers.
Mm-hmm.
And he sat me down, and here I am, how old am I then, 23, 24 years old? And he was asking me questions like, what's wrong? What's happening? I said, well, I'd like to, write a little bit more poppy stuff so we can get more recognition, make some more money, become a little bit more famous, do like Journey's doing. And I was telling him all these things, and little did I know he was best friends with with one of the producers, which is Billy Arnell. And I think what happened was he went back and told him, and politically, I guess they said, well, maybe we should get somebody else. And I think that's what happened, because nobody really knew why they let me go. I asked Guy, and he told me that it was really the producers. It wasn't them. They were really sad when I was gone, especially Guy and Jimmy and Peter.
And Guy, he, from what I know, he quit the music and business altogether when he left Riot.
Yeah, he actually wanted to get away from it because it was he became a born again Christian.
I think I read that in a booklet.
What's that?
I think I read that in the booklet for the Narita issue.
Yeah, he wanted to stay with his family, and he found out his kids were more important, and what he was doing was not as important anymore. Plus, I think he was just sick of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they weren't really making any money. Which is something that a band that of that caliber should have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And from what his wife told me, again, I not to open up a can of worms, but the producers had a lot to do with a lot of the demise of Riot, the original Riot, and that caused the rift between. I mean, they had Mark lock, stock, and barrel, for a very, very long time, and I'm not sure what album it was, but one of the albums was where actually those two producers were bought out, and Mark was able to get away from their clutches, I guess.
May have been, because I have Born to America on vinyl, and I think Steve Loeb is still.
Yeah, well, he always had the tie with the band. He had, like I said, he had everybody lock, stock, and barrel, and the name.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows now what the story is now that Mark is gone.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and I was just about ready to reach out to him and say, listen, let's talk.
Well, have you talked to Mark before he had passed?
No, I didn't get a chance to. But I did tell my two friends that went to go see him that I gave him my regards and stuff like that. And he was kind of laughing because he goes, Lou must hate me. He goes, and they told him that Lou just wanted to just to talk and sit down and just chew some of the fat with you, go over some of the old times. And he actually said that Lou had a lot to do with writing the Riot album, Rock City.
Mm-hmm.
And that was divulged to them. They actually told me. I didn't know this. But, I had gone on to tell people that, but the reason you never saw me, I mean, you will never see me go on any place and toot my own horn that I helped write the album, because who's going to believe me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But now that it came out of Mark's mouth, these two guys, that gave me the, kind of like the, okay, I'm comfortable with this now. Mark actually knew it, and he just never, maybe he was just, Mark was never really, if you want to know a little bit about Mark was a real loner. And when I
heard that about him, yeah.
Yeah, Mark really never had a girlfriend or really any friends when I met him.
Oh.
And his friend was his music.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to get very, very close to him, which a lot of people don't know. I used to hang out in his room all the time, and him and I would go over stuff over and over and listen to Queen albums and what do you think of this riff and what do you think of that riff, and then we would actually play together, and him and I would just like go off with each other, and we had a very good bond musically. And he was a different person when we played together musically by ourselves. He was different with the band, but when him and I got together, it was very, very cool. We both had, I think, admiration for each other. And I never said anything bad about Mark, never said anything derogatory, because Mark was a great guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's evident, and I wish that we had lasted another couple of albums together. Who knows what would have happened then. But he was a kind of a loner and never really had a life like maybe you and I have, with friends, with family. He was very, very distant type of guy. So to get involved with him, you really had to, you kind of had to hone in on something that he, you had something in common with. So basically, I used to talk with him, and he was a very dark kind of guy. Never smiled a lot, never was really very happy, but very, very dedicated to his music. And I remember one time in particular, I asked him, I said, man, why don't you go out and do some dating or something. Grab a girl. Let's come on. There's so many girls that would like to go out with you. Let's go out and do some stuff. And he was like very, very timid at that point. So he really never had the emotional maturity that most of the other guys in the band had. And I think that was one of his problems. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was sick all the time. He was so introverted, and I felt bad for him. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks noticed that about him.
Yeah, I was watching. Somebody actually filmed the memorial, or the public memorial service before the funeral last week, and I saw somebody talking about Mark, and they were saying, they gave an example of what Mark was like. They said they gave this example about that about a friend saying pretty much what you said, like, except like going out for dinner. It was just like, let's go out for dinner, and he said, well, where do you want to go? And Mark would say he wanted to go to Chili's.
Right, yeah.
Or something like that. It's like, why do you want to go to Chili's? Because people know me there.
Right. He had a tough time. I think that's why his touring was very important to him. His acceptance. That was his family, the fans. Where he didn't have that, and I tried to help him at one point, but it was very difficult to break through. He was a very hard person. Plus, he had a very, very crappy life with his mother and his father.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So he didn't really. I mean, I hung out with him in the house all the time, and he was very, very. Constantly fighting with them, and he would tell them to go fly a kite, stuff like that. It was fun. It was actually pretty comical, being the age that we were.
Well, the thing I like about Mark is that, and I think a lot of people have pointed it out in their tributes, is that it seemed like it didn't really matter to him, how successful Riot were, or if they were on MTV, or if they had a hit single. He just kept going with it. He just kept going with Riot until the day he died. Yeah,
that's apparent. That's apparent. And yeah, he was a tough egg. He had his own little world that he lived in. Unfortunately, but listen, hey, his music will speak volumes. So. He played some really good stuff. I got into some of the stuff with, like I said, with DeMeo, singing, some great stuff. And Mike Flint is also an excellent guitar player also. I got a chance to, I never met him personally, but I got a chance to talk with him on Facebook. I will tell you something that I did a couple of days after Mark passed away. I know they had some gigs that they were doing. Without him, they still had to do their tour. So I offered my services if they ever wanted anybody to sit in. I would be honored and more than happy to stand in for Mark as a former member, and back Mike up as a guitar player if they wanted me. So he was nice enough to write back to me. He goes, he'll pass along the information back to the record company, and he'll get back in touch with me. But I did offer.
Well, they did get, the one gig they played at B.B. King's, they got Rick to come up and play 2 songs. Yeah,
because they probably played a couple of Riot tunes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what have you been doing since you left Riot?
Well, I was in a band called Sweet Talk.
Mm-hmm.
After that, which we had a record deal with Epic Records, but that got squashed by a very high-powered attorney who had other things in mind. But I was in a band called Sweet Talk, and I have my own recording studio, so I've been recording artists for since 1988. And I've been playing with various bands, and now I'm in a couple of bands. I'm writing a new original album right now.
Oh wow!
Rock album, and I'll probably have that done at the end of the year. And I'm going to have a couple of guest stars on there. I'm going to have Peter Batelli come on, and Jimmy Iommi's going to come on.
Oh, cool.
I might have Mike Flynn come on and do something. Mike DeMeo, I might have come and do some stuff, and it'll be under my name. It'll be under Kouvaris. I'm going to name the album Kouvaris. but you know, I'm pretty known in Greece because that's where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people know me in Europe, so I'm going to see if I can do a little something there and see what comes out of it. You never know. But I've been doing a lot of recordings, and I've been playing in a couple of rock bands. I play a lot of classic rock, and basically I'm a family guy. That's what, that's what I do. I do this for I stay true to my music because I love the music business musically, not the business end of it, I should say. And I love recording artists and helping people, so I do a lot of recordings for artists. That's one of my main things. And I am in a Billy Joel band called Cold Spring Harbor, which is pretty popular here in New York. And I'm in a band called Time Warp, which is a classic rock band with a couple of old Riot fans. So that's kind of neat. So I'm like the old guy, so to speak, the mature guy,
mm-hmm.
or the how would you call me, the elder statesman. And that's what I've been doing. Other than that, that's about it. I have a family. I own a nice house. I enjoy my life.
All right. I went through all my questions. So,
Great.
Well, thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. I'm sorry to get into anything juicy with you, but I mean, I could tell you some stories, but I won't. We had some really good times with Riot, but that's for another time. But I would appreciate if you do anything, or anything comes in print, if you would send it to me.
Oh, sure.
And if you can just throw my website out, I'd appreciate it.
And I'm going to be using this as a thing for. I'm not only using this for my blog or whatnot. I'm going to also be using this. I'm also doing this for a class too.
I'm sorry. What was the last part?
I'm doing this for a class.
Oh, class. Okay.
Like they want us to do like an edited radio piece.
Right.
I mean, just to show that we have the experience in the mass comm department, that we know how to do it. Like we have to record I'm going to be recording a game somewhere, and this is my radio bit. So I'll probably edit this into a radio piece, and
very cool.
So.
All right. I hope I was articulate enough. And if you want me to do the call letters one more time, because I probably sucked at it the first time, I'll do it again. But definitely give out my website.
All right.
Lou Kouvaris. It's either lakouvaris.com or loukouvaris.com. And all right, Aaron.
All right. Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Take care now.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye now.